So now we're going to move on to our fundamental errors. And the number one type of error that you're going to find on the SAT is a verb error. And there are two types of verb errors. The first type has to do with subject-verb agreement. And as I said, the subject is usually the first thing you see in the sentence, and the verb is usually the second. So if you look at that first sentence on your page, it says, the effect were bad. Clearly, you read it, you know it's wrong. It just sounds bad, and we don't even have to think about why it's bad, because our ear does all the work for us. But the reason why it's bad is because the effect is our subject, and it's singular. Were is our verb, and it's plural. So we can't combine a singular subject with a plural verb. So we have to change that sentence to either the effect was bad or the effects were bad. But what I want you to realize is you will never ever find a question this easy on the SAT. They're just not going to do it because they know that your ear works, and they know that you're going to be able to hear a subject-verb agreement error as soon as you put the subject next to the verb. So what they do to trick you is they separate the subject from the verb. There are three main ways that they can do this. And the first way is by inserting a prepositional phrase. So in your packet, there's an entire list of all prepositions that you will ever encounter. The top three that you'll encounter on the SAT are of, on, and in. Nice short little words that do wonders for screwing with our heads when we're dealing with subject-verb agreement. So what you want to remember is anytime you see a preposition, especially these, you want to cross everything out up until you get to the verb. By doing that, you're now putting your subject and verb next to each other. And then your ear can do the work and you don't have to do any thinking. So if we look at that sentence, it says, the effect of the rain, wind, and snow on the roads were bad. So it's that same original sentence, the effect were bad, which we knew was wrong. But because we have that prepositional phrase in there, our ear hears roads were bad and thinks, oh, that's fine. But it's not fine because our subject is still the effect. So once we cross out that entire prepositional phrase that says, of the rain, wind, and snow on the roads, once you cross all of that out, you now can hear that the effect were bad and you know it's wrong. So prepositions, we get rid of them right off the bat. The second way that the SAT can separate a subject from a verb is by including a subordinate clause. And basically all that means is that you have a clause that's in between two commas. So you have your subject there, we have our verb here most likely, and we have this little clause in here that describes our subject. What that clause does, though, is it separates our subject from our verb and makes it harder for us to hear whether there's a subject-verb agreement error. So if you look at that second example on your paper, it says, spring daffodils, which line the streets of Boston, is a welcome sight after a long winter. So this sentence puts the word Boston next to the word is. So our ear hears Boston is and doesn't hear a problem. But it's not Boston that is a welcome sight, it's the spring daffodils. And we know we wouldn't say spring daffodils is a welcome sight, so we would have to change our verb to are. So then we get to the third most common way that we can separate a subject from a verb, and that is a reverse sentence where we put the subject after the verb. So that's what I was saying, when it's not always the case that the subject starts the sentence, but it is very common. So in that third example, it says, there is a pillow and 2 blankets in the hall closet. So if we look at that sentence, we ask ourselves, what was in the hall closet? And that is our subject. And the things that were in the hall closet are a pillow and 2 blankets. So there's two things that were in that hall closet, which means that we have a plural subject. An easier way of doing this sentence is to actually reverse it. And so if we reverse this sentence and say, a pillow and 2 blankets is in the hall closet, our ear automatically hears that that's wrong. And we know that it has to be, a pillow and 2 blankets are in the hall closet. So if that's how you say it when you reverse it, then we know that is wrong the way it's written here. And we know we need a plural verb. So those are our 3 ways that the SAT likes to separate the subject from the verb and trick us about subject-verb agreement. So subject-verb agreement, that's our first error.